Hi, my name is Hannah Lewis, and this is my muscle video. This is your trapezius. Your trapezius is a large trapezoid muscle in your back and part of your neck. It has three parts. It has the descending, the transverse, and the ascending. The descending is also called the superior fibers. It's from the bottom of the skull to your C7, and it attaches to the scapula, and it can move your scapula upwards, and it also can rotate your neck from side to side. Your transverse, or your middle, is connected to your spinous process of your T1 through T4 in your acromion, and it abducts your scapula, which means it pulls it back. And then you have your ascending, or your inferior fibers, and this is from your T5 to your T7, and it goes to the tubercle of your spine of your scapula, and it depresses the shoulder, which means it pulls it down, or it can also help pull it up too. This is your sartorius. Your sartorius is a long, thin, superficial running tensor, runs sash-like. The origin is the anterior superior iliac spine of the pelvic bone. The insertion is the pes anserinus, and it's by your inner knee. It has two joints that it's associated with, your hip and your knee. And it acts in extending the thigh. And whenever you contract, it's the only muscle that contracts the hip. And then it also does abduction and internal rotation of the hip. This is your tensor fascia latae. The tensor fascia latae originates from the anterior part of the outer lip of the iliac crest, and it runs down the side of your leg and is connected to the iliotibial band, which is about in the middle of your thigh, which it connects. And then that goes on to connect to the lateral condyle of your tibia. And the functions is it assists in flexion and abduction of the thigh and internal hip rotation. And it also maintains tension in the iliotibial tract, which helps stabilize your hip and your knee joints. This is your latissimus dorsi. Your latissimus dorsi is a large triangular muscle that helps with your upper limbs. It originates in the posterior lip of the iliac crest and spinous processes L5 through T7 and your ribs 8 through 12. The insertion is the inner tubercle groove of the humerus, which is up here, and it extends the arm forward, flexion, and it also moves the arm back, so extension, and even hyperextension, so just going farther than extension. Its other functions are it also abducts the arm, so it moves it closer to the body, and then it can medially rotate the arm, so it's turning it inwards. This is your gastrocnemius. Your gastrocnemius, also known as your calf, is a large muscle of the posterior leg, and it's the most superficial. It has two heads, the medial and lateral head. And the lateral head starts at the lateral side of the lateral condyle of the femur. And then the medial is also the largest and the longest, and it starts on the end of the surface of the femur. And they run together and they taper into a flat aponeurosis, which then runs down to the and connects to the posterior surface of the calcaneus. It's your Achilles tendon. And the whole point of your calf, the function, is dorsiflexion, so basically pointing your foot downwards. This is your extensor digitorum longus. Your extensor digitorum longus is a long, thin muscle that runs down the front of your shin, across your ankle, and into your toes. It originates in the lateral condyle of the tibia and the ventral side of the fibula. It actually divides into 4 tendons and connects at the base of the distal and middle phalanges of your 2nd through 5th toes, so not your big toe. Its functions is dorsal extension and flexion of the foot and helping lift your toes. This is your flexor carpi radialis. Your flexor carpi radialis, it originates at the medial condyle of your humerus. Right there, it's kind of that bony surface in your inner elbow. And it runs sash-like down your forearm and inserts into your 3rd metacarpal. So it's kind of in your palmish area that it connects. It functions in wrist flexion and wrist abduction. This is your rectus femoris. Your rectus femoris, it makes up one of the 4 parts of your quads. It originates in the anterior inferior iliac spine of your pelvis. It inserts into the common insertion tendon, which is also called your quad tendon. It functions in extending your leg and also flexing your thigh. This is your tibialis anterior. Your tibialis anterior, it originates at the lateral tibia, and it inserts and it merges into a tendon and attaches into the medial corniform bone, so it's behind the big toe, and the 1st metatarsal bone. Its functions are dorsal extension of the ankle joint. This is your deltoid. Your deltoid, it has 3 parts. It has your clavicular part, and it originates in the lateral 3rd of your clavicle. The acromial part, which is the middle, it originates, as the name would suggest, in the atrium of scapula. And then your spinal, or your posterior part, which is on the back, it originates from the spine at the scapula. And they all 3 insert at the same place. It's on the shaft of the humerus, and it's at a place called the deltoid tuberosity. The function is to move and stabilize your shoulder joint, and it abducts the arm, and it also moves the arm backwards, and that's it. These are your rectus abdominis. This is the muscle I picked. I picked the rectus abdominis. It's a vertically running muscle, and it originates in the pubis between the pubic tubercle and the pubic symphysis. And it inserts at the 5th and 7th costal cartilage in the xiphoid process. Its functions are any movement of the trunk, and it stabilizes the vertebral column and tensioning of the abdominal wall and any kind of contraction forward. That wraps up all my muscles. Thanks.